California is now set to vote on whether to legalize marijuana this November, and not just for medicine purposes, for recreational use as well. Under this proposal, folks over the age of 21 would legally be able to buy, sell, or grow small amounts of pot. Actually, not that small. I think it's an ounce, which is not an insignificant amount. But they'd be able to buy it, grow it, sell it, and do whatever they want with it. Smoke it as well. The initiative on the ballot after hundreds of thousands of voters signed a statewide petition. Opponents say that they'll have no problem defeating the measure come November, but supporters argue that prohibition has not worked and that California could really use the tax revenue. And then there's still the sticky little issue of federal law, which is very different from what they're proposing in California. Joining us now, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I don't even know where to start with this story, but you have said it's time to do this.
Well, I think it is time to do this because prohibition has been an abysmal failure. The government spends over $50 billion with a B a year prosecuting people for small amounts of the use of controlled dangerous substances in their home. As a former judge who used to send people to jail for doing this, I can tell you how frustrating it is to have to enforce a law that you know is fruitless, to have to lock up someone who doesn't belong in jail, who didn't cause harm to anyone. But society still has this Victorian attitude. I'm a libertarian. I believe that an individual should be able to make a choice for himself or herself as long as that choice doesn't hurt anybody else.
It's your body. You can put in it whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
Correct.
You know, parents are not going to appreciate what you're saying, Judge.
Well, I know they're not, but this is not to say that it should be available for children any more than alcohol is available for children, and we learned the disastrous consequences from prohibition with alcohol. But having said all of that, California has a law that's very unique, and it permits these radical changes in the law to be put on the ballot bypassing the legislature. So this is not something the legislature has done. This is something the voters will do. And even if they do it, as you said, there's that sticky problem of federal law which still prohibits marijuana for any use, medicinal or personal.
So how does all that work out?
The federal government, the Justice Department, in the Bush administration, prosecuted people who used marijuana for medicinal purposes, even in states where it was lawful. In the Obama administration, the Justice Department looks the other way and says, if you have a prescription from a doctor, we won't prosecute you. It would be up to the Justice Department to decide if California passes this. Do we want to look the other way, or do we want to make what is legal in California illegal and prosecuted?
You know, we've had such a hard time convincing people not to drink and drive. I think a lot of people would be worried that you start making the recreational use of marijuana legal. It's going to make that task to get people to stop from smoking and driving even more difficult.
The government should be more concerned about people making choices for themselves and about them bearing their own responsibility than about trying to take care of them.
Well, it's an interesting story.
You're not buying this.
Well, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure, and I worry you get these drugs in the house. We've seen what happens with legal firearms that are in a house. They're not stored properly. Kids get their hands on them. Terrible, terrible tragedies take place, and I worry what happens when you start allowing people to have pot in
The Supreme Court has addressed those very issues and has basically said to the government, you can't make something illegal for an adult just because it would be harmful for a child. Otherwise, we'd all be living and acting like children.
I understand. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in November.
You know what? It'll probably fail. I don't think this will pass, and this debate will be postponed for another time.
And this is not the only state, California. There are other states that are talking about this as well. So we'll see what happens. Judge Andrew Napolitano, always good to see you, my friend.
Pleasure to see you, Rick.